Hello and welcome to another Stompy 51 miniature adventure, which this week is going to dabble you through my Ersatz Northern Alliance, made as ever with the miniatures that I have. So we're talking Mantic's Kings of War, of course, and this is one of the factions deep in the ice mountains on the frozen edge of a range known as the Howling Peaks. There stands an impossibility. It is enchanting, awesome, dominating, and incomprehensible in equal measure. Bridging a high valley between mighty sentinels of rock stands the implausible city of Chill, entertainingly named. Tribes of Northmen have bent their knee before Talinar's throne, as have snow trolls and even dispossessed dwarfs. Word of his realm has attracted elves who have cut their ties to the old world and sought new glories as part of this young hippie nation. The disenfranchised and the lost find a welcoming home within the commune that is the walls of Chill. It is a rallying point for those that wish to unite for something greater and a kit-bashing bastion against the darkness of the world. And after I've shown you the miniatures I have, do hang around for the quick battle report that I'll just whip through. And so on this rainy day in England, with its new dawn, aka ray of sunlight, what does a 1,000 point Northern Alliance army look like when you're just rummaging through what you've got? So I've done a whole detailed video before, probably about a year ago, of these Chaos Marauders, which I'd just kind of kit bashed a little bit with various bits and bobs of other barbarians and medieval things so that they looked a little bit less chaosy and more heavily involved with their dwarven neighbours, with loads of kind of bits from the newer, are they called Forsaken now? Dwarf bits. And so I'm not going to go through every single one, but these were being used as, they couldn't be used as human clansmen because those would be normal infantry on a 20mm base. So these were all going to be heavy infantry, aka Huskarls, and 2 regiments of 20 with Crushing Strength 2, Fury and Wild Charge, which I thought was entirely in keeping with what they are. And so I'll just line them up. Are they in focus? They kind of are now. I'll just line them up so you can sort of see what they look like as a unit, a regiment of 20. And I had great fun kit bashing these way back when, and a number have like a penny underneath them because of the weird angles that I kind of positioned them in. And this is what they kind of look like up front, up close. I mean, it's bits of Marauder pieces from the varying ages that Games Workshop gave them. And sometimes, you know, the constructs looked a bit more successful than others. And a lot of them have metal shields from War Games Foundry Vikings and shields from the Oathmark sprue. So that's the one unit of, I think, 20. It seems to be 19, but I'm sure we'll find more. And then here's the second unit. And the joke is, I think I can use these in Warhammer in the Old World because human infantry are now on 25mm. Oh, I hope they are. I believe they are. And yes, they don't look too chaosy, but equally, there seems to have been a movement in a lot of the modelling to make these Dark Oath Chaos Marauder types who meander around Norska a little bit less immediately chaosy, in that they understand that they are moving towards evil, but they are not yet flailing, purple-tongued, swivel-eyed demons. And so, you know, they are still just Conan the Barbarian type nutjobs running around who are at one with a nomadic existence of pillaging their neighbours. So they probably still could be used as marauders in Chaos, in Warhammer in the Old World. Probably is a bit of Chaos in the Old World. And so for these purposes, that's another Huskarl regiment. So we've got 2 Huskarl regiments. Let's get them in focus. Sorry about that. As I often say, if you want high production qualities, you'll have to go somewhere else. If you want to see my increasingly large-scale collections, you can come here. Oh good, thank heavens, I found the 40th man. Because you see, I actually think that I bought 2 boxes of these Marauders back in Warhammer 7th edition and just didn't really play with them. Then we've got, what else have we got? Remember, this is only 1,000 points. We've got monstrous infantry, we've got snow trolls, and I just got these from Print My Miniatures. I bought the STL, a mate printed them up, and they're called Print My Miniatures, and these are walrus men, because they are walruses who look like men, but they are flipping enormous. They're enormous, and they're supposed to come on a base of 40 millimeters. But because I seem to have lost the 5th one, and because Mantic enables you to do this kind of, it doesn't really matter how many models you've got, you know, so long as you cram the base enough, as long as the unit size, the unit base is what it could be. Which I suppose means if you're, you know, a kid who can't afford all this stuff, you can just get, you know, your breakfast cereal boxes, slice them up into the right sizes, write whatever you want, draw a few pictures, and play a bit of a game. That's what I would have done way back when, stuck as I was in a country far, far away where things were expensive to import. Right, so that's 1 snow troll, 2 snow trolls, but because of the basing they count as 3 snow trolls, and that would be a regiment. And these things come with crushing strength, regeneration, vicious melee, and wild charge. So that's the 1 unit. And I thought, sorry, I would spruce up the bases with, for example, bits and bobs that are not really functional for their purpose. So this shield, I think, is an Artisan Miniatures shield I got from North Star. And although their casting quality is normally amazing, this shield just had a lot of flash that was just hard for me to cut for the shield to look normal, and so it has now just become an aesthetic enhancement to the base of these men who are walruses. What have we got over here? We've got 2 more. I mean, they'll be fun to paint. I don't think they'll be too complicated. I mean, the only problem with him having such a humongous sticky thing is, you know, how do you square him off if he gets into combat? But you know what, that wasn't a problem before, and I'm sure it can be resolved on the ground, as they say. And so there you go. Zoom out a bit. We've got 2 regiments of heavy infantry and 1 horde of monstrous infantry. They can go over there. And it's always raining. I'm sure you can hear it. So actually, these weren't part of the army that I played with, but I pulled them out while I was getting this stuff out of the garage. And are these Fenrisian wolves? Some kind of space wolf thing, probably. And I picked these up secondhand, and I will snip these off these bases carefully. And I think they can be rebased on a normal 50 by 25. Not only for this game, but also for Warhammer in the Old World as Chaos Mutts. No, they're not called Mutts. What are they called? Chaos Hounds. Who knows? Anyway. And what would we do with these? These would be not Pack Hunters. Tundra Wolves. Cavalry. Nimble Thunderous Charge. They're not too bad. Not too bad, but I will have to rebase them, and I'm pretty sure they can be rebased. I mean, that one seems to be flailing off to the left, and there's one flailing off to the right, and I think I would just basically put them on the edges, because that's the point of the square basing. It's a lot of people square basing for Warhammer in the Old World with the older miniatures have had trouble kind of getting units to rank up. But then again, 'twas ever thus, wasn't it? But I think that there is a solution here, because enough of these are going straight, and the ones in the corner can be going off as some kind of pack hunting strategy, you know. Is it called triangulation? Where you get like, where if you've got the prey over here, you don't just let it run away, you go over here, and then one sneaks up behind, and then the poor prey is stuffed. And I think birds hunt that way as well, don't they? Right, so, that's a bit of a tangent, because they weren't part of the army. Then we come to, this crooked dice giant, who I'm always entertained by, and we'll have to zoom out to try and give you a sense. Ooh, what a mess that room is. You don't want to show that. How am I going to show this? He's so big. He's so big, he doesn't even fit into the shot. Right. Guy is basically being used as a titan, a frost giant, who's also a bit of a spellcaster. I'm not sure how that works. I don't remember using him as a spellcaster. He's brutal, crushing strength 4, and a strider, so he can just walk through terrain, if I remember rightly. And he's got a shooting attack, icy breath. And, you know, it's little things like that, that in my mind make Kings of War a little bit more fun than I remember Warhammer Fantasy Battle 7th edition. Because, you know, there's always a few little things just to spice things up. You know, I don't remember giants having a ranged attack, but, you know, in giving him a ranged attack, it means he's doing something more often than just having to run in and smack people's heads in with that humongous stick. And I think I mentioned he's from Crooked Dice. And will I paint him one day? The joke is that I often find it not a huge amount more effort to paint big things than smaller things. And he's pretty simple. He's pretty simple. There's not loads and loads of detail. And I reckon that contrast paints could be used for a lot of things, like his little dragon skin jacket. So he's a Frost Giant Titan. And then we turn to War Engines, because remember, we're only on 1,000 points here. And this is an Icekin Bolt Thrower, which has keyword elf. And I thought to myself, I've always wanted a high elf bolt thrower. I mean, it's a lot bigger than I imagined they would be. But they're good fun. Bolt thrower 48 inches, so it could basically hit anything on the table. And it had a special rule, ice-tipped bolts, that if you actually hit someone, you would slow them down by 1 point in the next turn. And again, as I mentioned when speaking about the giant, there are a lot of these little extra little enhancements of fun in Kings of War, which I don't remember in Warhammer 7th edition, which give everything a bit of interest. Ooh, I need to file off that little bit of mold line over there, which I hadn't spotted before. Annoyingly, I've lost one of the handlebars here, or levers, but I might just green stuff that gap in, because if it's firing, do you really need to have 2 levers? Albeit the physicists out there can tell me that you need to have one on either side to get the torsion right for the bolt. But this is a world of fantasy. Or if you've got a spare bolt floating around, a spare lever, let me know. I won't be painting this anytime soon. Right, and then we come to leadership. And here, I thought I would go for a wizard. And so this dude is being used as an ice queen. And there's nothing wrong with that. Is he a jade wizard? So he scales up, very nicely, but is obviously very, very old. But in keeping with this, commune in the mountains idea very nicely. But there's loads of other things you can get. Thanes on Frostfang, Lord and Chimera, a Snow Troll Prime. So plenty to get into there. What's an Ice Blade? A hero, a duelist, a half-elf only. Yeah, I think those Ice Blades might basically be war dancers, but I'll have to have a think. And a Skald. I thought a Skald was someone who just sort of sings poems in Viking mythology, throwing axes. Who knows? Either way, this brings out a bigger issue, I think, of I would like to support Mantic. It's their game. It's a great game. Presumably they're making most of the money from the miniatures, not me playing with the rules. for 20 quid. Albeit I am advertising the brilliance of this game to you. But the thing is, I find once you've embarked on a path of using the miniatures you have, especially if they're largely Games Workshop miniatures, they are slightly a bit bigger and bulkier than the Mantic offerings. But the Mantic offerings are improving all the time. And so maybe I'll have a look at what's involved when I go to the friendly local gaming store again and see if I could spruce up this 1,000 points with anything else from the actual range. I mean, you can put in loads of normal dwarves and elven archers, and I've got plenty of those, but equally there are whatever these ice naiads are. Is there some kind of water sprite? You can have a horde of 40 of them, and they have ensnare. Weird, that seems to be an infantry unit. Is there some kind of naiad shooty thing? No. Shooty things involve elves. All right, well, we'll see how it goes. But on to the little match report first, so you can see how these guys performed on the table. Proper little Battle of Galgamela this was. You can see the Northern Alliance heroes at the bottom there lined up. The bolt thrower at the back, the giant on the right, the walrus men on the left, and holding the centre, the Ice Queen and the two regiments of Huskarls, and opposite them were the absolutely enormous Mantic giant, in front of them some regenerating trolls, and then some kind of goblin warriors, some orc warriors, and some goblin archers, and then behind them the slightly tough and scary, hard-hitting orc boar boys. You may take our lives, but you'll never take our freedom, as they sort of just vaunt their privates and shout rude things, and the walrus men just do a Wookiee. And the orcs and goblins just stood there and looked deeply unimpressed. I mean, my opponent is a financial journalist, so he does everything by the numbers. Now, the whole point of a rank and flank game, I suspect, is to play that strategy of hammer and anvil, where you kind of have a solid unit that can just sort of take a hit, take a punch, tie down the enemy, and then galloping in from the left come your, Alexander and his companions, whatever, on their horses, slamming through the side and doubling or ideally hitting from the back and quadrupling their attacks. But as you can tell from my list, these are all basically just, is it anvils? There's no hammer. So I moved everything forward and the enemy just engaged. I mean, fundamentally, what else can these guys do? That said, I did send my giant around the right flank, and he kind of passed this very annoying little unit that I wish my opponent would A, properly base, and B, get some miniatures of the right scale. He's got some tiny 15mm goblin wolf boys, and so I always forget about them. But anyway, so they were doing the same thing, and I thought, oh, what harm can they cause? They're not very good. There they are. Old as time, I suspect. Minifigs? Who knows? And so the centre of the battlefield turns into an absolute rugby match slugfest, as you can see, with the walrus men ploughing into that massive goblin unit, and the one of the Huskarl regiments kind of having a slugfest with, I think, I can't know if these were orcs or goblins, but they were the Oathmark ones. Until you can see what's kind of happened on the left, which is bad news, that those regenerating trolls have kind of wheeled round and slammed into the horde of walrusmen from the flank. And they are brave, those walrusmen. They are noble, and tales and songs will be sung of their heroism forever, but they basically couldn't take it. The number of dice against them was just humongous, and they got wiped out. But I kind of replicated the situation on the flank I've just shown you on the other flank. I mean, this is confusing for you because I'm showing it from my opponent's perspective here. This is my right flank, his left flank. But here I have managed a bit of a hammer and anvil arrangement, and that giant basically just absolutely polishes off that unit of goblins. And so, as you can see, my left flank has collapsed. And I'm now terrified that giant and those trolls are going to just careen across the battlefield and slam into both units of Husskulls. But I managed to turn around at least one unit of Husskulls and then angle the giant to try and deal with those orc boar boys. And for one turn, I miraculously managed to hold down the giant, and my giant manages to kind of hold down the orc boar boys. And the Husskulls on the right are in a bit of a pickle because they've got the trolls coming up from their rear, and they've got these little goblin wolves right behind them. So I've got to pick one. So I think, look, how long those trolls must take another turn to get over to me, and so I'll just kill the wolf boys and then reposition myself to face the trolls. But I am, to use a technical term, an absolute muppet, because in the various things I had to remember and do, having defeated the wolves, I forget to reposition myself and turn around, which I was enabled to do by having wiped out the wolves. And so my opponent, in his next turn, first thing he does, not believing his luck, piles into the rear of the Husskulls with the trolls, and it doesn't go well for the Husskulls. They get wiped out. And you may have seen actually earlier that my giant didn't last very long against the boar boy charge, and he got wiped out with the boar boys pretty much largely intact. And then closer to my edge of the table, those goblins who had slowly been marching across the field, having been involved in wiping out the walrusmen, finally make it to the bolt thrower, which had been happily killing, knocking off 1 or 2 points a turn, but not enough to cause real damage. Now, I can't remember the exact scenario we were playing. I think it was one where you've just got to cause as much damage as you can by, I think, turn 5, something like that. And, the Husskulls there on the right were wiped out. We assumed that at some point the trolls would just turn around, the boar boys would turn around, and my Husskulls up there wouldn't really be able to survive that, not least if the goblins at the bottom actually marched up, because I think we only got to turn 4, I think. But either way, I had lost. Sad though it was, it had been a fun game, and we'd really enjoyed getting to better grips with the rules of Kings of War, which is an absolutely fantastic game. And that's it for today. Thank you very much for watching to the end. Please do leave any comments you wish, just so I know what you think, and subscribe if you haven't already. Keep well, keep safe, and I hope to see you for the next one.